So till now, we have read the preface, introduction, and the first three chapters of Nectar of Devotion. In preface, we discussed about the history of literature and the purpose of Nectar of Devotion. We discussed about how the purpose of this book is to make each one of us a Goswami, and we discussed about Bhakti Rasa and Material Rasa. Then in the introduction, we discussed about Mangalacharan, the contents of this booklet, how it is divided into the four vibhagas, and each vibhaga is compared into the different layer. And we discussed about the definition of pure devotional service in detail. Then in the first chapter, we discussed about it begins with at present we are in the Eastern Division, and they are subsequent the first layer, second layer, third layer, so on. At present we are situated in the Eastern Division according to Rup Goswami in this Bhakti in this ocean of Bhakti Rasa. So in chapter 1, we discussed about the 6 characteristics of devotional service, that it is Klesha, Agni, Shubhada, Moksha, Laguta, Krita, Sudurlabha, Tandra, Ananda, Visheshatma, Krishna, Karshani. And we discussed each of these characteristics with some examples and with some verses from different scriptures. Then in the chapter 2 was about Sadhana Bhakti. So we discussed the definition of Sadhana Bhakti. What is the qualification to perform Sadhana Bhakti? It's the taste which has been acquired from the previous life or Agyat Sukriti by causeless mercy of a pure devotee. Then we discussed about the definition of Sadhana Bhakti, that it's a systematic practice that is executed with mind and senses, which awakens the bhava, which is lying dormant in the heart of the practitioner. And we discussed various examples of child walking and a psychiatrist reviving to normal condition. And then we also discussed about the essence of all instruction is to fix mind on Krishna by any means. And the easiest way to fix mind is chanting of holy names. This all we discussed in the chapter 2. And we discussed that sadhana bhakti has two parts, Vaidhi sadhana bhakti and Raganuga sadhana bhakti. The difference between the two is the inspiration to practice. And then we saw the definition of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, that when there is no attachment or no spontaneous loving service to Lord, and one is engaged in the Lord's service simply out of obedience to the order of spiritual master. And we discussed that the purpose, the essence is always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. And if one sincerely practice this Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, then he rise to the platform of love of Godhead. Narad Muni says in Narad Pancharatra. Then in the previous chapter, chapter 3, we discussed about the eligibility. What is the eligibility? It's a mercy of Lord or association of devotees, which turns one's attraction to Krishna's service. Then we discussed that knowledge, if the knowledge and renunciation needed to begin, no, they are not needed. They are not a prerequisite because too much of this makes one's heart hard and motionless. Dry knowledge and dry renunciation. Then we discussed about the three levels about Kanishcha, Madhyam, and Uttam Adhikari with the parameters of faith and knowledge. And we discussed that faith is a strong conviction that by Krishna Bhakti, that the goal of life is to satisfy the desires of Krishna. And Uttama Bhakt is fully convinced by that, and he has no other desire than to simply satisfy Krishna, and is very well versed in the knowledge of Shastras. He can convince other, he can defeat all other arguments. And we discussed about these three grades of devotees. Then we also discussed that Kanishta are of further 4 types. Who all? Artho, Arthyarthi, Jigyasu, Jnani. And we discussed one example of Gajendra, Dhruv Maharaj, Chatush Kumar, and Shaunaka Rishi from the sages of Naimisaranya. And the best of this is Jnani because his service is more or less selfless. Then we also discussed that the impediments to advance in Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti are, what are the impediments? Can someone tell? What are the
Mukti,
impediments to advance in Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti?
Mukti Bhukti,
Yeah,
Siddhi.
Bhukti Mukti. Yeah, right. And this specific chapter we'll be discussing about it. The title of this chapter is Devotional Service Surpasses All Liberation. So we'll continue with this. That is specifically a practitioner, especially a bhakta, rejects all desires for liberation. And the purpose of this chapter specifically is twofold. Just to give you a context, it will establish the glories of bhakti, that how devotional service is super excellent and it surpasses all kinds of liberation, number one. And it will inspire the devotee to reject all desires for bhukti and mukti. To establish the glory of bhakti and to inspire us to reject all other sorts of desires. Either it's of bhukti, of sense gratification, or of mukti. Because both of them are centered around one's own selfish self. Okay, so now we are, with that background, we are beginning chapter 4, Devotional Service Surpasses All Liberation. How much a devotee is seriously attached to the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be understood from the statements of Maharaj Prithu, Adi Raja, which is described in Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 20th chapter, verse 24. He prays to the Supreme Personality of Godhead thus. It's 4th canto, 24th chapter, verse 24. I'm just going directly to that verse. Na kamayena tat api aham kvachin na yatra yushma charanam bujasava mahatmanta vidayan mukhochito vidhatsva karna yutamesha mevara. My dear Lord, I therefore do not wish to have the benediction of merging into your existence, a benediction in which there is no existence of the nectarian beverage of your lotus feet. I want the benediction of at least 1,000,000 years, for thus I may be able to hear about the glories of your lotus feet from the mouths of your pure devotees. The similar prayers was rendered by Srila Rupa Goswami also, where he expresses his desire, I may have, millions of tongues and billions of ears, that there is so much nectar in the syllable Krishna. And we see here similar prayers are being rendered by Prithu Maharaj. He is rejecting the benediction of merging into the existence. Why is rejecting? Because there is no opportunity to hear about Krishna in impersonal Brahman effulgence. So if you want to study Nectar of Devotion in more detail, so what you can do, whatever quotations that have been made in individual chapter, you can actually go to those quotation and you can further read the purport of Srila Prabhupada to those verses. We're not going to do that in this session. But at your own free time, if you want to enter and understand those quotation and verses in a much better way, so you can also refer to the purpose of Srila Prabhupada. And if I have no chance for this honey of transcendental bliss, then I shall never ask for liberation or this so-called spiritual emancipation. I shall simply always pray unto your Lordship that you may give me millions of tongues and millions of ears so that I can constantly chant and hear of your transcendental glories. The impersonalists desire to merge into the existence of the Supreme, but without keeping their individuality, they have no chance of hearing and chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord, because they have no idea of the transcendental form of the Supreme Lord. There is no chance of their chanting and hearing of his transcendental activities. In other words, unless one is already beyond liberation, one cannot relish the transcendental glories of the Lord, nor can one understand the transcendental form of the Lord. A similar statement is found in Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 14th chapter, verse 44. Shukadev Goswami addresses Parikshit Maharaj there and says, the great soul king Bharat was so much attached to the service of the lotus feet of Krishna that he very easily gave up his lordship over the earthly planet and his affection for his children, society, friends, royal opulence, and beautiful wife. He was so very lucky that the goddess of fortune was pleased to offer him all kinds of material concessions, but he never accepted any of these material opulences. Shukdev Goswami praises this behavior of King Bharat very highly. He says, any person whose heart is attracted by the transcendental qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Madhusudan, does not care even for that liberation which is aspired to by many great sages, what to speak of material opulence. So here, what is the symptom that one is attracted by Krishna, either by through the holy name, form, qualities, pastimes of Krishna? The first and foremost characteristic is he will reject all desires of sense gratification. And just like Bharat Maharaj, he was the ruler of this entire planet. Can someone's opulence be compared to even, the little bit of the opulence of what King Maharaj Bharat had? He was the ruler of the entire earth planet. He had such a beautiful wife, such affectionate children, the society, the friends, all kinds of royal opulence. But automatically, he was not interested in any of these. Why? Because he was so attached to the service of the lotus feet of Krishna. He was so attached. And Krishna's lotus feet are the ocean of all sorts of bliss, Satchit Ananda Vigraha. They are the reservoir of pleasure, just like we read in the Mukund Mala Strot also. And anyone who's attracted by transcendental qualities, they does not care even for liberation, and what to speak of material opulences. Would someone like to read? Can continue.
In the Bhagavatam 6th canto 11th chapter verse 25, there is similar statement by Vritrasur, who addresses the Lord as follows. My dear Lord, by leaving your transcendental service, I may be promoted to the planet called Dhruvaloka, the pole star, or I may gain lordship over the planetary system of the universe. But I do not aspire to this, nor do I wish the mystic perfection of yoga practice, nor do I aspire to spiritual emancipation. All I wish for, my Lord, is your association and transcendental service eternally. This statement is confirmed by Lord Shiva in the Srimad Bhagavatam 6th canto 17th chapter verse 28, wherein Lord Shiva addresses Sati thus: "My dear Sati, persons who are devoted to Narayan, Krishna, are not afraid of anything. If they are elevated to the higher planetary systems, or they get liberation for material contamination, or they are pushed down to the hellish condition of life, or in fact in any situation whatever, they are not afraid of anything, simply because they have taken the shelter of the lotus feet of Narayan. For them, any position in the material world is as good as another.
Okay,
There
thank you.
is
Someone else can continue.
Prabhuji, can I read?
Yeah, please.
There is a similar statement by Indra, the king of heaven, in Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, 18th chapter, verse 74. There, Indra addresses Mother Diti in this manner: "My dear mother, persons who have given up all kinds of desire and are simply engaged in devotional service to the Lord know what is actually their self interest. Such persons are actually serving their self interests and are considered first class experts in the matter of advancing to the perfectional stage of life." In the seventh canto of the Bhagavatam, 6th chapter, verse 25, Maharaja Prahlad says, "My dear friends, born into artistic families, if you can please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, then there is nothing more rare in this world. In other words, if the Supreme Lord Krishna is pleased with you, then any desire you may have within the core of your heart can be fulfilled without any doubt. As such, what is the use of elevating yourself by the results of fruitive activities which are automatically achieved in all events by the modes of material nature? And what is the use of you of spiritual emancipation or liberation from material bondage? If you are always engaged in chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord and always relishing the nectar of the lotus feet of the Lord, then there is no necessity for any of these. By this statement of Prahlad Maharaja, it is clearly understood that one who takes pleasure in chanting and hearing the transcendental glories of the Lord has already surpassed all kinds of material benedictions, including the results of pious fruitive activities, sacrifices, and even liberation from material bondage.
Okay, thank
Similarly,
you.
thank you.
Someone else can continue.
Similarly, in the s-
Similarly, in the same 7th canto, 8th chapter, verse 42, when the demigods are offering prayer to Lord Nrsimha, Indra, the king of heaven, says, "O Supreme One, these demons talk of our share of participation in the performances of ritualistic sacrifices, but simply by your appearance as Lord Nrsimhadev, you have saved us from terrible fear. Actually, our shares in the sacrificial performances are due to you only, because you are the supreme enjoyer of all sacrifices. You are the supreme soul of every living entity, and therefore you are the actual giver of everything. Long were our hearts always filled with fear of them, Hiranyakashipu, but you are so kind towards us that by killing him, you have removed that fear from within our hearts and have given us the chance to place your lordship within our hearts again. For persons who are engaged in the transcendental loving service of your lordship, all the opulences which were taken away from us by the demons are considered as nothing. Notice, do not
Not able to hear you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. I think connection is weak, Prabhu, at your end. Someone else, someone else can continue from next paragraph.
yes, Guruji. Devotees don't care even for liberation, What to speak of these material opulences? Actually, we are not enjoyers of the fruits of the sacrifice. Our only duty is to always be engaged in your service, for you are the enjoyer of everything. The purport of this statement by Indra is that beginning from Brahma down to insignificant ant, no living entities are meant for enjoying the material opulences. They are simply meant for offering everything to the Supreme Proprietor, the personality of Godhead. By doing so, they automatically enjoy the benefit. The example can be cited again of the different part of the body collecting foodstuffs and cooking them so that ultimately a meal may be offered to the stomach. After it has gone to the stomach, all the parts of the body equally enjoy the benefit of the meal. So similarly, everyone's duty is to satisfy the Supreme Lord, and then automatically everyone will become satisfied. A similar verse is found in the 8th canto, 3rd chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, verse 20. Gajendra says there, "My dear Lord, I have no experience of the transcendental bliss derived from your devotional service, so therefore I have asked from you some favor. But I know that person who are pure devotee and have, by serving the lotus feet of great souls, become freed from all material desires, or always merge in the ocean of transcendental bliss, and as such are always satisfied simply by glorifying your auspicious characteristic. For them, there is nothing else to aspire to or pray for."
Okay, thank you. So we see, so there are prayers by different devotees which have been quoted here by Srila Rupa Goswami. So there was prayer of Prithu Maharaj, which shows that a devotee does not seek impersonal liberation because it offers no opportunity to hear the Lord's pastime. And instead of Mukti, Prithu Maharaj is praying for millions of tongues and ears. Then there was a prayer of Bharat Maharaj, in which we see that how Uttam Bhakta is ready to immediately give up all material comforts. Then there's Lord Shiva's statement, which would reveal that uh, devotees' total disinterest in heaven or hell. So there are so many different quotations that have been put up here. And by analyzing each verse, we will see that devotional service is surpass liberation. And what to speak about ordinary material opulences. And we'll see that one who has bhakti, they have no room for any other desires. It establishes the glories of the bhakti, it establishes the glories of bhakta. So there are different quotations that are coming here. In the previous quotations that we read about Prahlad Maharaj, it says devotees do not care even for liberation, and what to speak about material opulences, because I'm not the enjoyer of the fruit of sacrifice. My only duty is to be engaged in your service. Krishna is the enjoyer. Krishna is a proprietor. Krishna is the master. And he is a well-wishing friend. Till the time I'm trying to enjoy my fruits of my endeavor, I'll always be unsatisfied at heart. But if I reject those desires and I start working on behalf of Krishna, desire is not negated. You can have unlimited desires, but all those desires should be for Krishna. Just like if you want to eat something, the normal person, so-called normal, any person within this material world, they cook for themselves to satisfy themselves. But if we reject that desire and we cook varieties of meals, but with the consciousness to satisfy Krishna, that I'm cooking this to satisfy Krishna, I'm working to satisfy Krishna, so then will automatically be nourished by those endeavors and desires. And the example which has been cited is of the stomach and the senses. And then there are prayers of Gajendra. Usually, in the beginning times, sometimes the prayers, one is not able to enter into the mood, or one is usually not interested in reading the prayers. They are more interested in reading the story. Oh, what happened next? What happened next? What happened next? So कहीं भी अगर प्रार्थनाओं का सेक्शन आ जाता है, and if you are not that devotionally inclined, so it person kind of really want to skip those sections of prayer and move ahead with the story. But we should understand, if you really want to know the heart of a devotee, if you really want to connect with that devotee, or with that character that comes in different pastimes or in different stories in Srimad Bhagavatam, the best way to know that person is to hear their prayers. Then you will understand what how glorious they are, what is the quality, what is the substance, and what are their aspirations. So just therefore, whatever different quotations that are coming here of different characters from Srimad Bhagavatam, even if the mind goes here and there, even if mind tries to jump over it, so try to control the mind and try to really enter into try to really read those prayers, what exactly is being prayed for, and we can pray to those personalities that we may be able to develop similar mood in our own lives. It's like here Gajendra is expressing in such a humble way, my dear Lord, I have no experience of transcendental bliss derived from your devotional service, so therefore I have asked you some favor. But I know that persons who are pure devotees and have, by serving the lotus feet of great souls, become freed from all material desires and are always merged in the ocean of transcendental bliss. So just like in the last session, there was a question about Gajendra, about Abhilashita. So you see here, Gajendra is praying when the Lord appears, and he's praying that I have asked you some favor, my Lord. I don't know what to ask from you. I have no experience of transcendental bliss. But I know that persons who are pure devotees and who are serving a lotus and serving the lotus feet of those pure devotees, one becomes free from all material desires. So if you want to become free from the all the desires of bhakti, what is the way? The process is to serve the lotus feet of a Mahajan, a great soul or pure devotee. Okay. Someone else can continue.
In the ninth canto of the Bhagavatam, fourth chapter, verse 67, the Lord of Vaikuntha replies to Durvasa Muni, thus, my pure devotees are always satisfied being engaged in devotional service, and therefore they do not aspire even after the five liberated stages, which are to be one with me, to achieve residence on my planet, to have my opulences, to possess bodily features similar to mine, and to gain personal association with me. So when they are not interested even in these liberated positions, you can know how little they care for material opulences or material liberation. There is a similar prayer by the Nagpatnis, wives of the Kaliya serpent, in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 16th chapter, verse 37. The Nagpatnis say, there, dear Lord, the dust of your lotus feet is very wonderful. Any person who is fortunate enough to achieve this dust does not care for heavenly planets, lordships over all the planetary systems, the mystic perfections of yoga, or even liberation from material existence. In other words, anyone who adores the dust of your lotus feet does not care a fig for all other perfectional stages. There is a similar statement in the 10th canto, 87th chapter, verse 21, wherein the Shrutis, the Vedas personified, pray to the Lord as follows. Dear Lord, it is very difficult to understand spiritual knowledge. your appearance here is just as you are, is to explain to us this most difficult subject of knowledge of the Spirit. As such, your devotees who have left their domestic comforts to associate with the liberated acharyas, teachers, are now fully immersed in the devotional service of your Lordship, and thus they do not care for any so called liberation.
Okay. Someone else would like to continue?
In explaining this verse, it should be noted that the spiritual knowledge means understanding the self and the super soul or the super self. The individual soul and the super soul are qualitatively one, and therefore both of them are known as Brahman or spirit. But knowledge of Brahman is very difficult to understand. There are many philosophers engaged in the matter of understanding the soul, but they are unable to make any tangible advancement. It is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita that out of many millions of persons, only one may try to understand what is spiritual knowledge, and out of many such persons who are trying to understand, only one or a few may know what is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this verse says that spiritual knowledge is very difficult to achieve, and so in order to make it more easily attainable, the Supreme Lord himself comes in his original form as Sri Krishna and gives his instructions directly to an associate like Arjun, just so that the people in general may take advantage of this spiritual knowledge. This verse also explains that liberation means having completely given up all material comforts of life. Those who are impersonalists are satisfied by simply being liberated from the material circumstances, but those who are devotees can automatically give up material life and also enjoy the transcendental bliss of hearing and chanting the wonderful activities of Lord Krishna.
Okay. So just to summarize what we discussed today. We discussed about chapter 4, that those who are eligible to practice pure devotional service rejects bhakti and mukti. So it will have two parts, that the reference of devotees rejecting bhakti and mukti. This will come tomorrow. And I mean, we've touched some portion of the second part also today. So the first, what all reference we read? We read about Prithu Maharaj, we read about Bharat Maharaj, we read from 6th canto. Can someone say who was praying that? The third quotation. Can someone say quickly? Please unmute yourself.
Dhruv Maharaj.
Sorry?
Vritrasur.
Yeah, thank you. And then from the 4th canto, who was saying these prayers?
Shiv, Lord Shiva.
And then the next is 7th canto, Prahlad Maharaj is saying. And again, Prahlad Maharaj is saying. Then Gajendra, we read from the prayers of Gajendra. And we just read from the prayers of Nagpatnis. And who was praying in this? Your devotees have rejected all comforts and full immersion. Who is praying?
Bharat Maharaj.
Sorry? Come up again.
Bharat Maharaj.
Not able to hear you, Prabhu.
Uddhav.
Uddhav, no. Uddhav comes in 11th canto. I mean the above.
Demigods like Indra.
No.
Shrutiya.
How many? If you have read Krishna book, you can very easily tell this.
Shrutiya, Prabhuji.
Hanji?
Shrutiya.
The Vedas personified.
Shrutis and Vedas.
Yeah, it's the longest chapter in Krishna book. 87.
90
Uh,
kg.
and we just now read what Krishna is telling to Uddhava that my devotees won't even accept 4 kinds of spiritual opulences. What to talk about Sayujya Mukti, merging. Pure devotees do not aspire for other 4 kinds of liberation also. They are only and only and only interested in service. And this service is so transcendently blissful that even Krishna cannot resist. Krishna comes in the mood of Radharani to enjoy that rasa of service. Right. Okay, so we'll continue tomorrow. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Keep practicing those verses, keep engaging with the assignments, and you can revise what you have read, or you can read the further portions, and you'll be able to better connect in the reading sessions. Right. And these are 4 months. I again encourage you, inspire you, take some targets for this 4 months. And if you would like to share, do share in the groups also what target you are taking. It is said, if you take a target, there's one verse. I'm just forgetting that verse at present. It says the purport of the verse is, I'm just paraphrasing it. If you do a particular activity, you get a result. But if you take a vow or if you take a target and then perform that activity, the result that you get for that spiritual activity is even much more than what you would ordinarily get if you do it without taking a vow or a commitment. So take a commitment, decide on some targets, and you can also share within the group and seek blessings of devotees. Because if you take target and if you do not share with anyone, then there is high chance that mind can trick you like anything. So there is, but if we take targets and we announce it also, then one thinks that I have announced it, and he becomes more or less accountable to the group. Okay, let me do it. It's not a force that you have to do, but I encourage you. You think for yourself. Choose one reading target for your life. I mean, one either. I'm just talking related to the reading and verse memorization. There can be other targets also that you can take related in your spiritual life. If there's a challenge in any regulative principles, I'll follow that strictly. If there's getting up early, attending Mangala Aarti, or to have really attentive japa, not to talk in between japa, not to do any other activity in japa, or to practice gratitude, or I'll refrain from hearing or engaging in any sort of criticism of devotees, and I'll glorify devotees every day, one glorification to different devotees every day. It can be anything that you wish to work in your own spiritual life. And this Chaturmasya period is actually meant to reduce our sense gratification and to increase our endeavors for spiritual life. And there is Purushottam Mas also in this year. That's so very auspicious. There will be Purushottam Mas, Kartik Mas, and these 4 months, and many Vaishnav festivals would be coming in this time period. Balram Jayanti, Krishna Janmashtami, Prabhupada Vyas Puja, Radha Ashtami. So it's a very wonderful time and period. You can think through and actually make a decision. If you would like, you can share within the group and follow through. Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu ki jai. Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada ki